So, kids, we have here a story about where to give some tzedakah, some coins when we have it to people that could use it, that need it. We have a very nice story for you. Let's take a look at it now. It's called Quarters, Dimes, and Nickles and Pennies. Tzedakah, where to give the tzedakah. Let's see it now. Jingling. David listened closely to the jingling sounds of the coins as he dropped them into his bright yellow charity can. His mother gave him a few pennies to put into his charity can every morning. That way we can begin each day by helping people who have less than we do, she said to him. David didn't understand how the pennies in his yellow can helped poor people, but he liked the way his ears tickled from the sounds the coins made as he dropped them into the can. Sometimes, when David was especially good, Daddy gave him a nickel. And whenever Grandpa came to visit, David earned lots of coins. Grandpa reached deep into his pocket and took out 1 quarter, 1 dime, 1 nickel, and 1 penny. Then he put David on his lap and asked him to name each coin. When David said them all correctly, Grandpa let him keep all the coins. "You must always use your money for good things," Grandpa told David. David knew that it was a good thing to put money into his yellow charity can, so he made sure to do that with some of the coins he got from Daddy and Grandpa, and he always listened to the jingling sounds. One morning, as David was dropping some pennies into the can, he didn't hear a sound. He lifted the can to see what was wrong, and oh my, it was so heavy. He could barely hold it. It was so heavy, he could barely hold it. David's charity can was filled to the top. On Sunday, Mommy put the charity can into a bag. Then she took David with her into town. "You should be proud that your charity can is full," Mommy said as they walked to the bus station. "It will help poor people." David still didn't understand how his full charity can will help poor people, but he felt happy that his mother was proud of him. When they got off the bus, Mommy walked up to a small building on the corner of a busy street. David held her hand tightly. Inside the building, he saw all kinds of people sitting and eating at long tables. The people were wearing old clothing that had patches and holes in them. On the tables were bowls of steaming hot soup, fish patties, and strawberry jello. Mommy walked over to a plump, kind lady who was serving the food. "Hello, Mrs. Goodman. My little boy has a full can for the soup kitchen," Mommy said proudly. "We could surely use that here," Mrs. Goodman said, smiling. "We could surely use that here," Mrs. Goodman said, smiling. Then she wiped her hands on a towel and told Mommy and David to follow her into the office. Mrs. Goodman opened the charity can and emptied it onto the desk. Oh, so many coins! David and Mommy helped Mrs. Goodman separate the coins. Quarters in one pile, dimes in another, nickels in a third pile, and, of course, piles and piles of pennies. First, Mrs. Goodman counted the pile of quarters. There were 16 quarters in all. Mrs. Goodman marked some numbers on a piece of paper. Then she counted the pair of dimes. There were 26 dimes in the pile. Mommy counted 33 nickels. Mrs. Goodman, Mommy, and David each counted some piles of pennies. There were 171 pennies altogether. Mrs. Goodman added all the numbers on the paper. "You had $9.96 in your can," she exclaimed. She looked at a long list that was on her desk. "Let's see now," she said. "That'll help us buy lunch for 2 more hungry people." Mrs. Goodman thanked David and handed him a new red charity can. "We hope you'll come back when this one is full." Mommy promised that they would, and David said goodbye to Mrs. Goodman. On the way home, Mommy gave David some pennies to put into his new charity can. On the way home, Mommy gave David some pennies to put into his new charity can. As usual, Mommy said, "It will help poor people." David knew what Mommy meant. One by one, he dropped the pennies in and listened carefully. They jingled more noisily than ever before. "They must be feeling as good as I do," thought David. And as he skipped to the bus with Mommy, he was sure he heard the coins dancing happily in his new charity can. That's a beautiful story. David, he's going to be learning to give tzedakah, to give charity, so that poor people should have. There we have it, quarters and dimes and nickels and pennies. Baila, Olidort, illustrated by Nodel. Thanks, kids. See you again. See you again soon.